Well, they're both necessary, and they're really twins of modern diplomacy. There are times when we ask people to go out and serve in what we call a bilateral relationship. So someone will be assigned to the embassy in Beijing, and their job is to represent the United States, American interests, American values with the government of China and the people of China. That's a bilateral relationship. But there are a lot of multilateral institutions that are vital for the world. The most obvious is the United Nations and all of its agencies in New York and Geneva, in Nairobi and Rome, around the world. Another obvious example is the NATO alliance. It's a multilateral organization. The United States happens to be its leader and its more powerful nation. I was ambassador to NATO, which is a multilateral institution. I was also ambassador to Greece. I conducted a bilateral relationship. The two jobs were quite dissimilar. They required a different way of approaching the job, but both are important, and we Americans need to be both good at both of them. The most memorable experience I had at NATO was September 11th, 2001. I was a new ambassador. I'd just been there, I think, 12 days. We were hit hard. We were also, of course, thousands of Americans dead and wounded in the terrorist attacks in New York and in Washington, D.C., Flight 93 crashing in Pennsylvania. We were cut off for many hours that afternoon, at NATO in Brussels, from the Defense, State Department, and the White House because they'd been evacuated. And in that time, the Canadian ambassador came to me and said, have you thought about invoking Article 5 of the NATO treaty? Article 5, which had never been invoked until that day, essentially says an attack on one of us shall be deemed an attack on all of us. It's the key binding glue that holds NATO together. And I was worried that perhaps all the allies wouldn't agree to come to the defense of the United States. We operate by consensus. So if a single ally had said, we don't want to fight with and for the United States, it wouldn't have passed. By the next morning, every single one of those allies had agreed by unanimity, by consensus, that we would invoke Article 5. All the allies went into Afghanistan with us militarily. They're still with us 17 years later. So that proved to me the value of the United States being in alliance with other countries, so that when a crisis hits, we can depend on other countries to help us meet that crisis.